Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Yesterday, I made a video based on two Ukrainian articles. I think there were three, but two were Ukrainian, and the other one was, if I remember correctly, an American media outlet, where they used three Russian media reports, stating that the Russians tried to negotiate a peace with the United States of America through mediators in Turkey, and not only. And supposedly that Washington, D.C. refused to cooperate, said, no, we're not going to do this and all that. So this video that I made yesterday is this. Putin wants peace, U.S. wants war. U.S. rejects Putin's proposal to cease fire. And that was based on one of these articles, Ukrainska Pravda, and the other one, The New Voice of Ukraine, which the title is Washington Refuses Putin's Offer to Freeze Ukraine War Report. This is from the 13th, from yesterday. And the other one is this, Ukrainska Pravda, U.S. rejects Putin's proposal to cease fire after meeting of mediators. Reuters. So these were the two articles. And now we have the answer coming from the Russians. Doesn't mean that the Russians, who obviously will say, no, that's not true, they're telling the truth. But I think it's always good to show, a little bit or a little bit the other side, just in passing. So here we have this article coming from Russia Today, and we find out that the Kremlin, which in this case was a spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, says that, well, that's not true. Kremlin responds to report Putin offered to freeze Ukraine conflict. The Russian leader has not made any such proposal to the US, spokesman Dmitry Peskov said. A media report suggesting that Russian President Vladimir Putin reached out to the US with an offer to freeze the Ukraine conflict is false, Kremlin press secretary Dmitry Peskov has said. On Tuesday, Reuters news agency, so there's one, and these are the guys taking it from Reuters, right there. They took it from Reuters. Claimed that Putin has contacted Washington through intermediaries to propose a quote-unquote ceasefire in Ukraine to freeze the war, end quote. However, according to, I'm quoting, three Russian sources with knowledge of the discussions, end quote, who the agency claims to have spoken with, the US rejected the idea. When asked by journalists on Wednesday about the report, Peskov responded, and I'm quoting, "No, this is not true," end quote. Now, this is what he says. It doesn't mean it's true, correct? Correct, but it doesn't mean it's true what the other guy said either. In his interview with American journalist Tucker Carlson last week, Putin said Russia maintains contacts with the US through various agencies. Correct. I said this for a long time already. I've been saying this. Why? Because it's a controlled war. How do you think these guys are? Oh, we're going to give you these weapons, but you don't hit inside Russia. What is that? What do you mean? Supposedly the Americans don't give the Ukrainians this kind of missiles or blah, 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 and the same the Germans, because the Russians get upset. Is it totalen Krieg, or is not a totalen Krieg? Total war or not total war? No, not total war. If it would be total war, it would have been ended in the first day. Now, according to the Russian leader, Moscow has told Washington many times that, and I'm quoting, if you really want to stop the fighting, you need to stop supplying weapons to Ukraine, end quote. Is that true the other way around too? If the Russians stop the fighting, right? But they have to give up the land, then it will not. Because if the Russians move, let's say, retreat, the guys in the currently occupied territories, let's call them this way, or the acquired territories, those guys will be mostly eliminated. These guys are going to come with squads and they're going to them up. You think about ethnic cleansing, it's not going to be ethnic cleansing, it's going to be ethnic elimination over there. But these guys here, they don't really care. It's Russians and Ukrainians, barely. It says here, if that happens, the conflict will be over within a few weeks. That's it. And then we can agree on some terms. Before you do that, stop, he stressed Putin. Putin reiterated that Russia remains ready for talks with Ukraine, but in order for them to take place, President Zelensky should at least cancel his decree that forbids him from negotiating with Moscow. Imbeciles, man. During his speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos last month, Zelensky warned his foreign backers against trying to pause the fighting between Russia and Ukraine. And I'm quoting, "Any frozen conflict will eventually reignite," he insisted, adding that the West should be instead supplying more weapons to Kiev so that it can achieve a just and stable peace through military means. It's true, frozen conflict will eventually reignite. You have to solve the problems for centuries, but you can't. These guys have interests. What do you want? And the Russians also have interest. But the problem is these guys are not taking the Russian interest into consideration. That's a big mistake. You have wars. And Russia is not, I don't know, Romania or Poland or Baltic states or, I don't know, Serbia, Yugoslavia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya. No. It's a little bit different here. Earlier this week, Carlson said he had reached the conclusion that Putin, and I'm quoting, wants to get out of the conflict, but that the longer the fighting continues, the less likely the Russian leader will be to compromise. On Sunday, Peskov said that if talks between Moscow and Kiev do materialize, the Ukrainian side would have to recognize, and I'm quoting, the new reality, no matter how painful it may be for them, apparently referring to the failure of Ukraine's counteroffensive last year and the recent gains made by Russian forces along the front line. Well, the war shouldn't have started. I mean, could have been avoided with no victims. I mean, if you kill my people, what do you expect me to do? If I can smack you, I will smack you. So what these guys thought is going to happen? Russia will just take it like a female dog? I don't think so. And they knew it, and they did it knowingly. They had their calculations, they had that spreadsheet over there ready for them, the profits or the advantages would take off Europe. Yeah, you're going to make these imbeciles to impose sanctions on themselves. We're going to supply them with, we're going to be the helpers. Well, Marshall Plan are all over. We're going to take over Europe this time for good. Not only, economically, militarily, clearly. That's exactly what happened. The military-industrial complex profits, the energy sector profits, the banking system profit. That's it. The politicians are still in power, and we are paying for it. I think it sounds very good for the planners, don't you think? And they're not hurt. They are not hurt. We are hurt. The Ukrainians are hurt. The Russians are hurt. The Europeans are hurt. But they are not hurt. They are thriving. Good job. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.